Hello, welcome back to Coffee and Commiseration. This is Kay Steinsapir. Thank you for coming back to commiserate with me. Or if it's your first time joining, thank you so much. I'm honored that you're here. We certainly have a lot to commiserate about, my friends. As always, I have been off over the weekend. I had just an incredibly busy last couple of days. My husband John is we're both attorneys, as I think a lot of you know. I stopped practicing law a few years ago, but my husband is still working in the salt mines. Busy doing his thing, and right now he's in trial. So any of you who are litigators or married to a litigator or whatever the case may be, you know that when somebody's in trial, it's like they are just gone. Like John is literally gone. He's staying in a hotel downtown. But just, for the last couple of weeks, even preparing for it, it's so all consuming. So I have been, kind of solo parenting for a bit. Our au pair, Qatar, is getting ready to go back home to Italy. The boys and I took her out to a very nice celebratory dinner last night, and she is leaving tomorrow. So I am definitely, figuring things out as I go along here. Lots of changes. I want to tell you all about our experience with Qatar over the last 18 months and what an au pair is for those of you who don't know. But I think I will do it maybe tomorrow because I have so much I want to talk to you about. I don't have enough time. I also have lots of interesting guests lined up that are going to come on here just as soon as I figure out exactly what the feature is on here that allows me to conference them in. I got to get my 14-year-old tech support over here to tell me how to make like a two-way call. But lots of interesting stuff coming up. I'm coming to you late today because I was on the phone, which I normally do not talk on the phone very much at all. But my friend and sister, who I met when I had cancer, when we both were going through cancer treatment, Erin, she moved to New York. And so we were catching up for a long time this morning, which was great. As I said, it's like I feel like sometimes we can get so busy and wrapped up in what we're doing and, with our headphones or AirPods in and on our phones and just kind of miss like actually talking to people and really like connecting. So it was really nice to talk with her. We both were diagnosed with breast cancer around the same time. We both were 39 when we were diagnosed and turning 48 this year. So pretty unbelievable, actually. I can't believe it's been so long. But as we were talking about a friend of hers who has stage 4 stomach cancer. And he's a young dad and, going through this horrendous treatment and, a really tough road ahead. And he's already been through absolute hell going through all of this. And Erin, like me, is a very open person. She will talk to you about anything. She has no problem talking about stuff. And I think a lot of what I want to do here is just talk about anything and everything, because especially when it comes to physical stuff, it can literally be the difference between life and death, right? Like her friend was having digestive changes, and it's weird to go and talk about the fact that like you're not pooping more than once a week, or like, that maybe you're not sure if that's normal, or you have, issues going on that you're not sure about, but it's weird to talk about things. So whether it's awkward or strange or uncomfortable or whatever, I just want to talk about everything here because I think it is helpful. So much is sort of left unsaid and so many things are taboo and not talked about that really they don't need to be. It's totally unnecessary and it's unhelpful, actually. It's very unhelpful. Death and grief being one that I try to, bring a lot of awareness to. And then also just physically, talking about changes with our bodies, talking about going poop, talking about, menopause and changes with like your sex life, like all of this stuff. We just, I think, need to be really transparent and open about it. I find that always makes things better, even if it's awkward. So, like when I was practicing law, I would tell anybody my salary, and you know what? It was good to do because I told somebody my salary once, and she had been there much longer than I had been. I was making more than her, and she went to management and had a conversation about it, and I fully support that. So I'm all about it. I'm all about just total transparency and authenticity and not holding anything back. So I thought today, in that spirit, that I would talk to you about my cancer. I don't want to say journey. I hate that word. My experience with cancer over these last almost 9 years. So let's get comfortable with our coffee, friends. I'm going to share this because I hope that it helps someone else. I was 39 years old, no family history of any cancer to speak of, breast or ovarian or anything like that. I had 3 kids. I had Molly, who was in 2nd grade, Nate, who was in kindergarten, and Eli, who was an infant. And when I was nursing Eli, and I had breastfed all 3 of my kids, which, as you know, is supposed to guard against, breast cancer, or at least reduce the risk of breast cancer, I felt a lump in my breast. And, of course, even if you're not breastfeeding, like sometimes your breasts feel a little different. And so I thought it was probably just because I was nursing, and I had just had a physical because I'd just gone back to work. I'd been on maternity leave, and I'd gone back to my law office, and I had a complete physical, including a breast exam, and everything checked out. So I very easily could have been like, yeah, I just had a physical. It's probably nothing. It's probably because I'm breastfeeding. But I just had a feeling that something wasn't right. And I went in, like, I don't know, the next day or next 2 days or whatever to the doctor. As soon as I could get in, I called and made an appointment right away. And you guys, please do that. Like, if you feel anything is off in any way, do not wait. Like, I could have easily put this off to my next appointment and not gone in. And I honestly think it would have made the difference between whether my cancer was curable or not, because I had stage 3B breast cancer. That's locally advanced. I had 3 tumors in my breast and then a lot of lymph node involvement under my arm. So, yeah, don't wait. If you feel anything is off, you go right in, and don't feel awkward talking about anything. Definitely just do it. So I went in. My OB was like, yeah, I don't think this is anything. It's, likely due to breast cancer, but let's just, go for an ultrasound, check it out. So I go for the ultrasound, and they're like, yeah, we can't rule this out. This, it doesn't appear to be a cyst. It doesn't appear to be fluid filled. It looks solid, which is not what you want to hear. So I had to then go in for biopsy, and, all of this takes time, and I'm freaking out in the interim, of course. And I was a person who was always paranoid about my health. So the people around me were like, oh God, you always think you're dying. You always think something's wrong with you. You're neurotic, and it's like nothing. You're breastfeeding, you're 39, you have no family history. Like, of course it's not. And I just knew, I just had a feeling, you guys. And I felt that first lump, and it felt like a pea was like under my skin. That was sort of the size of it, which sounds really small, but in the cancer world, it's not that small. Like the head of a pencil eraser, like that size, but the consistency of like a pea, like not super hard, but definitely, noticeable. And then after that, I was nursing, so I would have to like feed the baby. My breast would have to kind of deflate, and then I could feel. And so I was like, just examining myself, and I felt two more. I'm like, no, it can't be, like, but I don't think that was here before, and now it's here. And it was just like such a fucking ordeal. And I was waiting for my results over the Thanksgiving holidays. I remember going to Moana with our friends, Molly's friend Emerson, who was her friend that was in the accident with her, and her family, and my kids, and us. And I just remember the whole time sitting through that movie, and just my mind was going crazy thinking about all my fears about being diagnosed and dying and not having any family support, and just like, it was the strangest thing, because I was like physically in that theater, but I was not there. I was completely somewhere else. So I got the results, and this was crazy. I was at work. I was with my friend Leslie. I told you we would always go for our morning coffee runs, which kind of inspired this podcast in a way. And we had done that, and then we would also sometimes walk to lunch. So we walked to this salad bar place. We're standing in line, and I just remember being completely beside myself, because what happened is someone called me while I was sitting at my desk, and they were from my OB's office. Was the phone number, came up on the phone. And she was like, oh, Kay Steinsapier, like, oh, there's a radiologist who called, to talk about you. And I was like, wait, what? Like, yeah, I'm waiting for biopsy results. Like, what did they say? And she realized, like, she shouldn't have called me, because she realized I didn't know. And so she was like, oh, no, never mind. Like, never mind. We'll get back to you. And so I immediately called them back, and they said, no one called you. I'm like, okay, yes, they did. I was just sitting here, and the number's on my phone, and they called me, and I talked to someone, and she told me a radiologist called to talk about me. And they were like, please hold. Oh, no, we can't find anyone who had a conversation with you. So that was like infuriating and not comforting in the slightest. So finally, after the practice closed for the day, now I'm at home. I have all three kids at home. They still haven't called. And I remember, it's funny, the things you remember in such detail, these like life defining moments. I remember I was drawing a bath, because like when I'm sick or scared or panicking or whatever, like I just want to get in a bathtub. I have been like that my entire life. All my friends know that about me. I'm a bath person. So I remember I was drawing a bath, and my OB called, and she said, yeah, sorry, I wanted to get all the information and all of this, so I waited to call you, and it is cancer. And she said, you're going to have a really tough year, but you're going to be okay. And at this point, all they knew is that it was cancer. They didn't know anything about the staging, or what kind of cancer it was, or where it had spread. I mean, this was like, we did not have a lot of information to go on. But I still held on to that. Like, okay, I'm going to go through a hard year, and then I'll be okay. Which, in hindsight, she really couldn't say that to me. But anyway, I was like, all right. So I go in, and I have to have more testing done. And I had a doctor who was a very good doctor, but very clinical, no bedside manner, who would say a lot of things without thinking about like the emotional impact about the way she was saying it. And that all of a sudden, like when you get cancer, it's kind of like with this fire thing, you guys. It's fucking crazy. It's like when something like this happens, or even when Molly died with her traumatic brain injury. It's like something happens. You get a cancer diagnosis, your child has a traumatic brain injury, your town burns down in a wildfire. Like all of a sudden, you are thrust into this new world with a new language that you don't speak. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, it was like all of a sudden I'm sitting here, I've gone away from my normal life, away from home and work and all the things I was doing, to spending my time like trying to figure out what's going on with my health. And they're speaking a language to me that I don't understand. Like I am unfamiliar with these terms, and I'm trying to understand, but also my brain is like not firing on all cylinders because I'm completely traumatized. This is such a problem with our medical system. It's like there's an assumption that like patients and their families have this like base understanding of the lingo that's being used, the terminology that's being used, the process, and they don't fucking have it. It's so crazy to me. It's like when Molly went to Geffen and they assumed she had like knew how to use, was really computer literate and knew how to upload and do all these things. Like her school hadn't taught her in elementary school, and we didn't know she had to know it, so she didn't know it. It was like that with cancer, and it was definitely like that when Molly was in the hospital, learning all about intracranial pressure and all these medical terms. And now with the fire, it's like I'm having to learn all about remediation and ozone levels and toxic waste and remediation of smoke damage and all this stuff. It's just so crazy how that happens. Sorry, you hear like dishes in the background here. This is not a professional podcast, you guys. This is just me at home. My friend Erin was like, "You sound good, like on the podcast. Like, what are you using? Your equipment." I'm like, "Nothing. I'm talking into a computer. I'm not using anything." But I'm glad you guys can hear me. I might at some point try to get something that I don't know, makes it so you can't hear like my kids talking to me or the dryer beeping or whatever. I also have a whole slew of people lined up to come on here and talk to us and commiserate, which I'm so excited about. I just need my 14-year-old tech support Nate to tell me how to actually conference people in here so that we can both be on at the same time. That this is how basic this podcast is, but it is full of heart and full of authenticity and full of talking about things that are not always easy or comfortable or pleasant to talk about, but hopefully being able to do so in a way that doesn't make us want to tear our hair out, and in a way that we can sometimes laugh, because if you don't, it's impossible. It's unbearable. So anyway, back to my whole cancer saga. So we found out I had stage 3B breast cancer. It was, there are all these issues. It's like, what staging is it? And also, what kind is it? So originally, my doctor without the bedside manner told me, well, this is probably triple negative or HER2 positive. It's almost certainly one of those. As it turned out, it was neither of those. So she probably didn't need to say that, because of course I Googled that. And the first thing you will find when you look up triple negative breast cancer is that it is the most deadly form. And I have, since my diagnosis, had 4 of my close friends die of breast cancer. And one of my best friends had triple negative breast cancer and did not survive it. So that was really horrifying. HER2 has gotten much more treatable, thank God. That's what Erin had. She will come on here and talk about her experience and whatever else. She's highly, highly entertaining and fun and no nonsense like I am. So I can't wait to have her on. It's become much more treatable, in large part because of advances that took place at UCLA, driven by our mutual oncologist, Dr. Sarah Hurvitz, who has since moved on. But Dr. Hurvitz, if you happen to hear this, or see me, I love you. I miss you. Thanks for saving me. I'm still going strong. And so is Erin. Anyway, so it was a whole thing of trying to figure out, like, how far along is this cancer and where is it and what kind is it? So in my case, I had 3 tumors in my breast. I already told you that I felt them. And another crazy thing that was happening is, when I was sleeping, my arm was going completely numb. And I don't mean like you just were lying on it and it felt like tingly and you had to kind of shake it. It was like I would wake up and feel like a jolt, and my entire arm was just like dead. It's like it couldn't, like there was nothing, no blood, no nothing. It just felt so scary and weird. And that happened to me a few times before my diagnosis, and it absolutely terrified me. It made me afraid to go to sleep because I knew it was going to happen. And I didn't know what it was. I didn't understand how that could be related to breast cancer, but I knew it was. And it was not normal. So as it turned out, what was happening is I had so much disease in my lymph nodes under my arm that those lymph nodes were like encased in tumor. So there's lymph node and tumor all around it. And it was so bad that it was pressing down on my ulnar nerve. That's the main nerve that's running down your arm all the way down to your hand. And that's why I have this stupid nerve damage that I have. So that was going on. We figured out, okay, stage 3B breast cancer. So that means it's curable. It's not stage 4, but it's almost stage 4, based on what they can see. And you'll learn in the cancer world, like that there's always a lot of unknowns. Like there are limitations to all of their instruments and tests and all of this. Like there's just always stuff that can't be detected until it can, but it's still there. So anyway, we found out my cancer was very strongly estrogen driven. So it was not triple negative. It was not HER2 positive. Triple negative means, by the way, that it's not any of the 3 most common causes. It's not estrogen, progesterone, or HER2. It's triple negative. It's none of those. And that's why it's the most deadly, because they don't know what causes it. So they don't have as many treatments for it. Whereas like for me, they know what causes it. It's estrogen. So in my case, it was like, okay, you just had a baby, you're breastfeeding, that needs to stop right now. And we need to shut down your hormonal system and no more estrogen at all. So it was like I had to take medication to stop my hormones, estrogen from being present in my body. And then ultimately I had to have a hysterectomy. Not completely, but partially. So ovaries and tubes. And I have to take this hormone blocking drug for 10 years. So it's crazy to think that I'm actually getting close to the end of that, which is so bizarre. And I will need you to commiserate with me when that time comes, because it's going to be a relief, because I won't be on this hideous drug that causes some very unpleasant side effects. But I also have been on it for a decade almost, and I'm going to be scared when I get off of it, because it's like, oh my God, was it preventing cancer? And now what if it comes back? But, I'm getting ahead of myself. I actually don't really worry about these things that much anymore. Not as much as I used to, not by a lot. After what happened with Molly, I'm just like, I am living solely in the present day. That's it. I told you guys this before. I'm not really looking even to tomorrow. I'm just in today. So that makes it easier. I tend to not get as carried away, like with ruminating. I definitely, oh my God, I used to ruminate so much. And so even when I was waiting for my cancer results, my test results, the people around me were like, you're so neurotic. Like, you're so paranoid. You're always thinking you have something. Of course it's not. Like, you're 39, you just had a baby. It's nothing. You're breastfeeding. It's nothing. And I mean, thank God, honestly, like I went and got it checked out, because if I hadn't, I think it would have been stage 4. So never wait. Trust, if you feel something is slightly off, even if it's probably nothing, you think it's probably nothing, just trust your gut and go right away and get it checked out for sure. Even if it's a weird thing, even if it's like, oh, I haven't pooped in a week. Okay, yeah, that's something to get checked out. And even if it's weird to talk about pooping, which I find weird too. Like, I've had to talk to my doctors about that, and I'm like embarrassed. I don't want to say anything about that, which is so ridiculous. We have got to stop that. It's so dumb. We've got to be able to talk about everything. Everything that goes on with our bodies, everything, that we experience in this life. Like, making things taboo just makes them so much harder. Like grief and death. It's like, or cancer. It's like, not only do you have to go through this really, really awful thing, you also have to deal with the fact that like people around you are made uncomfortable by it and don't know how to act and don't know what to say, and you end up comforting them. And it's like, oh, if we could just all be more open and more authentic and share our truth, then I think there would be less of that. So that's kind of my goal here. And you'll have to, you know, you'll have to forgive the fact that I am not professional. You will hear sometimes background noise. I do not script this. I do not plan these conversations. I am literally sitting here with my cup of coffee, chatting with you all. And I love it. So thank you. I am enjoying it. I was telling my friend Erin today, she's like, I didn't want to bother you. She wanted to connect me to another person who has breast cancer. And she's like, but I know what you're going through. It's a lot and I don't want to bother you. And I said, it's never a bother, never. And it's not just for like altruistic reasons, although I do want to help other people. It is literally what keeps me going. Like, some people will say to me, because now since my diagnosis, I have talked to hundreds, if not thousands of women with breast cancer. And sometimes people are like, oh my God, thank you so much for like spending the time. And like, cause I'll talk to anybody on the phone or get together if they're local or whatever, like anybody. And they're like, wow, thank you. And I said, no, thank you. Thank you, because you are allowing me to find meaning in suffering, right? It's like this terrible thing happened to me. I still will always live with, I'm a different person because of it. I mean, I live with the physical differences that I have, which are pronounced, and I am just a changed person altogether from having had cancer and having lost a child and gone through all the other things I've been through. But, in a lot of ways, you grow and you learn from these things. And what helps me is using those experiences to help other people. That's what gives meaning to my suffering. That's what kind of fuels me and gives me energy and strength to keep going. And I honestly think it's like keeps me healthy. So if you have cancer or you know someone who does, I'm your girl, especially if it's a breast cancer person or someone who's lost a child. So I never thought in a million years, you guys, that I would not. I mean, I didn't think I would stay practicing law forever. I somehow knew intuitively that was kind of a means to an end for me, although I did like it and I was very successful at it. I I always knew it was a means to an end, that I was going to go on and do different things. But it is strange that like I spend the majority of my time around people, talking to people, leading groups of people who have cancer or who are cancer survivors, and people who have suffered the most painful of losses, the loss of a child. So didn't expect that, but again, there's nothing else I would rather be doing. I said that to Erin, like, I'm actually good. Like, I am in this weird place. Like, I'm not at home and I miss my things. And I feel like I'm like in a long-term Airbnb, although I like it here. I'm sort of an adventurous type that likes to try new things and new places. So I kind of like that, but we're totally out of sorts here. And, I'm just kind of, going with it. And she said, do you need me to send you clothes? And I said, no, I don't want anything. I'm happy having less, which is so interesting because I used to be addicted to shopping. Like, when I was depressed, when I felt like down and bored or whatever, I would just be on my phone adding to cart. Everybody who knows me knows this. My friends and neighbors used to see my boxes pile up at the front door. Like, John would always tell me, Kate, if it's on sale, it doesn't mean you need it. Like, you don't need it. And I remember saying to him, I'm trying to fill a Molly-sized hole and I'm not filling it, but I'm trying to fill it with something because I don't know what else to do. And so I tried to fill it with like mindless consumerism. Sometimes I tried to fill it with alcohol. Sometimes, I think those were the two. Nothing crazy, nothing like, I needed to go into rehab for it or something. But being a cancer survivor, I'm not supposed to drink a lot. And sometimes I've leaned on my wine and stuff as something that, I need something to make me feel better. I need to have a little treat at the end of the day. Like, I need to, whatever that may be, right? Like, I need to buy myself something, or I need to sit here with, a nice bottle of wine and enjoy, socializing with a friend or my husband. And I don't know. But it's interesting that somehow this fire situation has like cured me of my shopping stuff. Like, I don't want shopping anymore, you guys. It's crazy. I realize now, like, okay, everything can just burn up in with no notice. One day it's there, the next thing it's all burnt, gone. You may have nothing. And if you're like me, if you still have a house standing, now I have to go through all of my possessions and someone has to inventory all of them and then throw them away. So I just don't want a lot of stuff anymore. I'm happy with these few things that like I bought, and like these nice companies sent things. Like, I'm cool with it. I'm sticking with it. So it's interesting how sometimes the things we need come in unexpected ways. uh, anyway, I'm not going to completely give up my wine, but I do try to be mindful, try to just have it on the weekends. Although this fire situation, as you know, has, led to some unusual circumstances for the Steinsapier family. So I'm giving myself a little grace on that. When I taped my fourth podcast of the day after having the sound off somehow for the first 3 episodes, I did have to join you for a glass of wine. So anyway, I hope you all are doing very well in these crazy times. I feel like every day it's just like the news cycle is overwhelming, and that we all see things so differently from one another, which is so weird to me. It's like all the Jewish people are suffering and in pain over the Bibas family and all of these things that are happening. And then it feels like everyone else is sort of like, oh yeah, it's whatever their views are about the conflict, or they don't know or don't have any. I don't know, but it's strange. And then of course with politics, it's like most people I know are like, holy fucking shit, what is Donald Trump doing? What is Elon Musk doing? What is this? Like, are we just taking a hatchet to the government? And what is going to happen in the next month, let alone 4 years? So most people I know are freaking the fuck out, like I am. But then there are a whole bunch of other people that are like, this is great. This is totally cool. You're being hysterical and worrying for nothing. This is, what we need. So I feel like these information silos that we all are in because of social media and whatever, it's like we're like on different planets, because what we see, what we're fed by these algorithms is so different. So I guess it makes sense in that regard, right? That we're seeing things so differently because we are literally seeing different things, like on these goddamn phones that we all carry around with us. Anyway, that's my rant. I hope to have a wide range of folks on this podcast. I want to hear from different people. I want to talk to people I don't know. I want it to be unscripted. I want this to just be a podcast that features everyday people and their stories. So if you want to come on, send me a message. Like I said, I have a list of people who are going to be joining us, who are going to be very interesting for you all. And when Nate gets home from school, I'll have him look at Substack and figure out exactly how it is we conference them in. I hope you have a good rest of your Monday, and that I will see you back for coffee and commiseration tomorrow.